Save thy people and bless thine inheritance.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Glory to Jesus Christ.
Glory forever.
You know, we began the fast with these words, the Great Lent. We began Great Lent with these words. Adam was cast out of paradise through eating from the tree. Seated before the gates, he wept, lamenting with a pitiful voice and saying, Woe is me! What have I suffered in my misery? I transgressed one commandment of the Master, and now I am deprived of every blessing. In the Apostolic, the glory verses of the Vespers of Sunday of Forgiveness. So Adam ate from the tree in paradise that he wasn't supposed to eat from. But you know, there were two trees in paradise. Well, there were a lot of trees in paradise. There were two special trees. Two special trees. One was the tree of life, which was not forbidden. And one was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which, as we know, was forbidden, and that's the one he ate from. We know the story. We know that they got tempted, and they ate from the fruit and everything like that. Because the problem was, it wasn't just the commandment of eating from the fruit that was the problem. The problem was why they ate the fruit. They wanted to be like God without God. They wanted to know the difference between good and evil. They wanted to be like God without God. They broke that commandment. And what happened? They lost their grace. They lost the grace. Their direct connection with God, as it were. Instead of being, they said, the fathers would say they were clothed in light. That's why they didn't know they were naked. When they looked at each other, they saw the light of God. They were made in the image and likeness of God. They looked at each other, they saw God. They saw the light of God around them. When they ate from that fruit, that light was gone. Suddenly they were disconnected. It's sort of like a cell phone. You have to charge the cell phones everywhere. But what happens if the cell phone's left without the charger for a while? It runs out. And that's what death is. Basically, our batteries run out. And they were expelled from the Garden of Eden. Why were they expelled? Was it because they broke the commandment? Well, yes, but mostly it was because God didn't want them to eat from the tree of life then and be stuck as immortals, subject to their passions, of being disconnected. He wanted them to be connected to him for eternity, but he gave them some time. It was actually for their own good that they were expelled from paradise, so that they wouldn't be. That's a great image of a person who is supposedly immortal, but has all the passions and all the terrible things of humanity. We call them vampires. If you look at the literature, the ancient literature, that's basically the vampires. They're like immortal creatures that have all the passions and all the hungers and all the negative things about the fallen humanity. So next time you watch Dracula, somebody tries to romanticize it, forget it. It's not romantic at all. It's actually the image of living death, because that's what it would be. It would be living death forever. So they were expelled. Now you have to ask your question, was that tree evil? The tree of knowledge of good and evil. Was it in itself evil? No, it wasn't. It couldn't be, because remember, God made everything and said it was good. So even the tree of knowledge of good and evil was called good. But mankind wasn't ready for this knowledge. You ever try to feed a baby a steak? It's not going to work. It doesn't work that way. You can't do that. The person has to be ready. So in the Septuagint, that calls the tree actually the tree of learning the knowledge of good and evil. And mankind wasn't ready to learn that knowledge. We weren't ready for that. We needed maturity, spiritual maturity. So man was temporarily banned from paradise and from the tree of life. Temporarily? It seems like it's been a long time. But remember, 1,000 years is as a day for the Lord. Humanity had to be ready. Humanity had to get some time to grow. There's a term, I love this term, it's called kairos. It's in Greek, it means the time of ripening, the fullness of time, the right time. God had a plan. He gave us time to ripen, gave us time to be ready. So he had a plan for restoring us to paradise. And today, we celebrate that plan. Today, we venerate the cross. Here's the fun question, what is the cross? And we know the scripture says to the Jews it's a stumbling block, because anyone who's hanged on a tree, according to scriptures, is cursed. So they saw that as being a curse. So that was a stumbling block to them. They said, we can't follow a guy who's crucified. That's a terrible curse. That means he was awful. That's not how it works. For the Gentiles, the Greeks, this thought it was foolishness, because why would we want to follow somebody whose revolution failed? He was a failure. He was just an executed criminal. That's the way they saw it. And then when people talked about the resurrection, they were like, who wants that? We don't want resurrection. No. They wanted to escape this world and the body. That's another story. But the thing is, it's not just a cross. It's actually the abolishment of the devil's legal system against us. Christ did not deserve death. He's probably the only human being. He is the only human being that didn't deserve death, that didn't sin. His sin is what causes death in the end, because when mankind fell, he was able to pass on mortality. He didn't pass on his guilt. We didn't inherit Adam's guilt, but we did inherit the consequences of Adam's sin, and that is mortality. But what if you're sinless? Christ was sinless. He didn't. He was not disconnected from God at all in any way. He was God. He is God. So he should not have died. And yet he died voluntarily for us. He united to us by nature. So we get to partake of his human nature. And since that human nature is connected to his divine nature, we get to partake of the energies of his divinity as well. So you see, what the cross is not just a cross and not just an execution tree. It's a tree of life. The cross is the tree of life. And Christ himself is the food that comes from that tree. We partake of him and we partake of eternal life. So now we're allowed to actually eat from the tree of life. We've come to the point where we're permitted to eat from the tree of life and live forever. Death just becomes a sleep for us bodily. Our spirits are still aware, our souls are still aware with God. But our bodies look like we call it a sleep now. As I've often said, the cemetery they used to make fun of us when we call it cemeteries, or the Christians called it a cemetery instead of a necropolis. Necropolis is where they used to call the places of the dead. I mean, city of the dead. We call it a cemetery, a place of sleeping. Because the body is just asleep. It's going to awake. It'll rise again. We all will rise in the resurrection. I like what St. John Chrysostom wrote. He said, the cross has broken our bond, that is the warrant, the charges against us. It rendered the prison of death powerless. It demonstrated the love of God. God himself died for us when on the cross. I think he says even more than this, though. He said, the cross brought about reconciliation, made the earth heaven, associated human beings with angels, pulled down the citadel of death. I love this one. Hamstrung the force of the devil, extinguished the power of sin, delivered the world from error, brought back the truth, expelled the demons, destroyed temples, overturned altars, suppressed sacrificial offerings, implanted virtue, and founded the church. One tree did all that. It's quite a tree. But it's funny how different things jump out at you at different times. And this time around, I looked at this line and I found this particular line from St. John Chrysostom interesting. He said, it suppressed the sacrificial offerings. We talked a lot about Christ being the high priest in our epistle reading. The sacrifices of Israel are no longer necessary. Christ is our sacrifice, the once and for all times. The sacrifice of Christ, remember what he calls him, we say in the liturgy, he's the offerer and the offered. When we're singing the Cherubic hymn, I'm saying this long prayer. Today is St. Basil's liturgy, so it's even going to be longer. We call Christ the offerer and the offered, the receiver and the received. And that reminds us that he is our priest. He is our high priest. People say that I'm a priest, actually, and all of us are in the royal priesthood, but that priesthood that we exercise, that I exercise, is his priesthood. It is Christ's priesthood. So in reality, I'm not a priest. Christ is the priest working through me. So when we offer those things on the altar, we're offering Christ's things that are Christ's to Christ. And this sacrifice is the final sacrifice, the complete sacrifice of all sacrifices none are needed anymore. Could you ever think of any kind of sacrifice that would be better or still necessary after Christ's sacrifice? That'd be like, having the best meal in your life, 12-course dinner. They said, hey, let's go to McDonald's. No, it doesn't work that way. You're not going to go to Cordon Bleu and get the world's best meal and then go pick up some chicken McNuggets afterwards. That would be kind of beside the point. It would pale in comparison. So why do we say it's just the one sacrifice, and yet we do this every week? We do the liturgy every week. Well, the liturgy remembers anamnesis. It brings it back into the past is brought into the present. The future is also brought into the present as well. When you look at the cycle of services, we have all these services. We have Vespers in the evening, Compline after the Vespers, we have Midnight Office, which is actually the morning prayers, and all these things. We have all these cycle of services, but the liturgy is not actually in the daily cycle of services, because the liturgy is outside of time. The liturgy is eternal. That's pretty cool. I like that. But so when we're offering, when I'm at the altar, we're out here singing and everything, where we are actually is at Golgotha. Where we are actually is in the upper room. Where we are actually is the kingdom of heaven. All at the same time. We might not notice it. We'd probably freak out if we did notice it. God is merciful to us in many ways. We don't see 99.999% of the things that are actually going on around us. We're given enough of what we need to know and see. But in our liturgy, we are present with this. We're bringing all these back into that moment. So that sacrifice, we're participating in the sacrifice that Christ did. So it is only one sacrifice. It's not done over and over again. What do we say? Also, when we offer the bread and wine, what are we offering to Christ? We offer him thine own of thine own. We offer him to be on behalf of all and for all. We're offering everything we have to Christ because he says, okay, he takes it, and he receives it because it's already his own. And it becomes his sacrifice on Golgotha. And then he offers it to the Father, himself to the Father, but then he offers himself to us. Not as an offering, as a sacrifice, but he offers us, himself to us, in partaking of the fruit of the tree of life. We become one with the author of life, Christ himself. We like to think of the atonement made by Christ on the cross, but we forget what the word atonement means. At least in English, it's very easy to remember at-one-ment. It's kind of cool when you think about it. You look at it, hey, that's a good word in English, at-one-ment. Atonement. It means we're made at one with. That's what atonement means. By the cross of Christ, we're made one with him. So we become co-heirs with him of the Father as well. What's cool is St. John Chrysostom writes, the cross opens paradise to us. The cross is the key to the gates of paradise. When we place ourselves under the cross, we place ourselves in the garden again. For the cross is that tree of life. Have you ever seen some, I don't have a cross that has it, I'm wearing my Celtic cross today, but have you ever seen some of the crosses that the Orthodox priests have? They'll have a little skull on the bottom, a little skull and crossbones. And I've had people think, is that a pirate cross? No, it's not a pirate cross. But it opens up conversation, so it's good to talk with people about it. But that skull is Golgotha, the place of the skull. Calvary, the place of the skull. Calvary is just a translation of Golgotha into Latin, so it's still kind of hard. Skull Hill, I guess we would call it. But it's traditionally thought of as the place where Adam was buried. So the cross is over the skull of Adam, so to speak. So that skull on the cross is the skull of Adam, and it's reminding us of paradise, and that this is the tree of life. what was the good thief? What was he told by Christ? This day you will be with me in paradise. Paradise can be ours again. Paradise is another name. Paradise just means garden, actually. It's a Persian word that means garden. So paradise and Eden are the same thing. Paradise, it's open, it's ours again. It's an option for us now. When we fall asleep in the Lord, as we heard in today's Kontos, now the flaming sword no longer guards the gates of Eden. It has been mysteriously quenched by the wood of the cross. The sting of death and the victory of hell has been vanquished. For thou, O my Savior, hast come and cried to those in hell, enter again into paradise. We get to go to Eden again. We're going back. We can appropriate these words for ourselves and bring paradise into this life. We can live in paradise right now. When we embrace the life of the church and its ascetic ways and its joys, then we can conquer sin through the power of our Lord and enter into paradise, even in this life. Last night at the Vespers, in Miami we had the Vespers. And I was struck by this. It said, "Come, O Adam and Eve, our first father and mother, who fell from divine glory, through the envy of the murderer of man," that's the devil. "Bitter was the pleasure of the tree of old. But see, the honored tree of the cross draws near. Run with haste and embrace it in joy, crying out with faith. Thou art our help, O most precious cross. We eat of thy fruit and gain incorruption. We are restored again to Eden, having received great mercy." In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Glory to Jesus Christ.
Glory